Hello again, e-ink friends. I hope that you have been watching the previous videos with some interest, because in this one I'm going to go into a deep comparison to show you the differences of the two screens, the reMarkable Paper Pro with his 11.8-inch Gallery 3 technology versus the Onyx Boox Tab XC with 13.3-inch but Kaleido 3. And you will see how these two screens do compare. We'll really go into all the details, screen refresh rates. We will look into the RGB layer. We will compare the color mixing on the Kaleido screen and really zoom in to very high zoom levels and look how these two screens compare. Okay, so here we see now a comparison of the devices with two. I will show you two particular documents. One is an academic paper. It is a A4 size, so you would normally print it in either A4 or in US letter, depending on the region you are coming from, but this is approximately the same with minor differences only. And here on the Onyx device, you see the default launcher, the home screen, which I tried a couple of different options, and the problem is that there are a few applications like the Notes app and the library, which seems to be hidden and somehow tweaked into the main launcher, so that when you use this additional external third-party launcher like Smart Launcher or Nova Launcher or whatever, you would not see them. And I have not found any way to access these applications. Maybe I'm going to look into this at a later stage. But then on the other hand, also this launcher is quite well optimized. You see the speed of screen refresh is okay. I mean, the distances between the app symbols is insane for such a huge device, but that's something they have done on the iPad as well. Nobody understands why. But anyway, and here on the left side you have this additional screen. You can have a news feed here. You have memos directly and the notes access. So that's maybe quite handy. Now, library actually gives you access to an application which is a sort of a specific file organizer for ebooks. And then when you open the ebooks, it opens in NeoReader, and also NeoReader is not accessible by default from a third-party launcher. So this is something which is a major problem. So again, maybe I'm going into this in a later video, but this is now about the reading modes and how the screens compare. Let's start here with the library application, and there are two modes. One is the bookshelf mode, which allows you to create virtual bookshelves based on an additional organization level, which has nothing to do with the underlying folder structure. That seems to have a couple of examples in filtering, sorting, etc. Maybe also the highlighting of some favorite documents and so on. But it has the disadvantage that it is completely disconnected from your file organization structure on the device, which you can with the appropriate software connection, like Calibre, or just plugging in and using the file, the Explorer feature on a Windows system and a specific Android tool on a Mac. You can directly manipulate this and really import files onto the device. So having a file organization structure may be handy, and if you use that, you have to go here, but then you see everything goes into one main folder, which is the folder on the device called Books. And if you go into it, it needs a little bit of time to refresh. That could be annoying for some, and that is a major issue that I have found. In many cases, it does not properly update the content in the representation here in the icons that are displayed. For example, here the folder generative AI, which is quite empty because I'm just preparing the documents. It will be maybe one of the largest because of my profession, but currently only 7 documents. And here this book cover here, if you see these 4 book covers, and if I open the content, you see it's strange because that's not actually the book covers which are in. Yeah, so this is a completely different book. There is a scientific paper, AI glossary. This is 2 books about prompt engineering with DeepSeek and multimodal. This is a white paper from I don't know whom, and this is also a prompting guide by a university department. Now, 7 documents. These are really the documents inside the folder. If you go back, and it takes a while to refresh, here you have the little thumbnails of the cover documents, and it's wrong. And I could not find any way to get this updated. Maybe there has been, because of previous usages of my Boox devices, and since it's now connected to the Onyx account, some synchronization in the background, but it is annoying. It makes actually the use of this library feature unusable for me. Point number 2, and this is something you should have in mind as well, if you're coming from a reMarkable, and I know there have been a lot of discussions that this is mainly a note-taking device, but it is a very, very fundamental e-reader in the market of e-readers, and it has one feature which is global tagging documents and also tagging single pages of documents. So you can really note a page, add a specific highlight to a page. For example, if you have a proceedings book, with a lot of articles inside, and you want to flag one particular section, you can add a tag, and you then find all the tags in the. I will here quickly open that. If you go into the tag section, you will find all the tags, and also these tags which I'm using here can refer either to a book or they can refer to a page within a book or article, EPUB or PDF, irrespectively. So that is a fantastic feature. And this is not here. And this is a major deal breaker because that is something I absolutely need. I mean, imagine you read hundreds of papers and then you want to reference a couple of thoughts, article, not a full article, but a section of it with generative AI, prompting, content creation, marketing, the future of work, business. I don't know what tags you're going to use, but and then by tapping on this or looking for these tags, you want to see all the documents and directly jump to those pages. That's something this device cannot do by default. This is missing, and this is a feature which is actually a deal breaker. It makes it unusable as an e-reader. Yeah, because I'm not just reading a fiction novel, page 1 to page 250, which is fine, but this is a work device. This is not like a Kindle which you take for vacation and just read a fiction novel. Yeah. In this case, I don't need bookmarks and labels because this is for leisure. This is for entertainment. I want to read a piece of art, a piece of literature. But here, I may want to read a lot of different books, sections, chapters, articles, and link them together to derive new insights and to create my own interpretation, to write my own publication, for example. And that is not possible. So even if this is deeply integrated into Onyx Boox ecosystem and also gets a little bit slow once you use the folder structure mode, because it always seems to refresh this. And if you go into the bookshelf mode, then it's disconnected and you need to replicate all the structure. It seems to save the cover art a little bit better, but we have also some challenges in general in this application, in this book browser, let's call it like that, because the reader is separate. And this is the treatment of book covers which are not the standard shape of, I think it's 4:3, which is used here on the screen. And you see that because this is, let's open it. This is a landscape brochure or white paper, whatever, but it's fine. However, you need to open it to see it in a proper way. If I'm now going to close, yeah, I know it's the first page, okay. If I'm not going to close this, then you see it's completely distorted. And that may be also annoying to some, at least for me, because not all books have exactly that 4:3 shape. Now, that's for one. What you have here, and this is quite useful, is also a feature of recent reading behavior, reading habit, and that is something which makes absolute sense, and you can go back to your particular books and jump into it. Okay, this is the default application. And I'm now going to look into one particular document, and this is here. And by the way, this is always displaying the first page. And I have the second document also bookmarked here. Here in the reMarkable, I need to close this little circle. And now we have these documents side by side. Now, you may say, the size difference is not so significant. Well, that depends, because still there is a significant difference if you look on this article. And I will do also a close-up. I have already my macro lens prepared, so let's do this a little bit later. But let's first go into the overall impression of reading experience. Now, you see, this is the page turning mechanism on the reMarkable. So you have essentially, it looks like the page turns into another page. They are sort of overlapping, and like an overlay of the new page over the older, that stays for a fraction of a second visibly on the screen, and then it turns into the new page. So that is how it works here. You don't have this full screen refresh with the blackening in order to clean the e-ink particles. But yeah, you have this, yeah, now, oops, and now it's gone, and you have the page 2. So this is how it looks. This is the standard setting, and I have not touched here the setting of the contrast. If I go for full contrast increased mode, no, this is off. This disables the increased contrast setting or adaptive contrast, and this is the adaptive setting, which adjusts or reduces a little bit the contrast of two contrasty pictures, but keeps the text better readable. And that's about, I would say, the best feature on the reMarkable, because it balances text and images. Looking into colors, here you see clearly the open, this one, and that is yellow. The two colors, yellow and blue, are absolute highlights on Gallery 3 displays, because they really appear as yellow and blue. Because of the RGB layer on the Kaleido displays, they sometimes look more like a dark violet, the blue, and the yellow easily turns into some sort of orange, like in this case. So, or at least dark, a brownish, yellowish, something like that, like a dirty yellow, at least, at best. Yeah. So there is a significant difference. What you see also is in this default reading mode, and you can adjust this here a little bit on the. Oops, I apologize for that. On the Neo Reader, because there are a couple of settings here for contrast, and you can, for example, increase the dark color rendering, then it really gets very, very, this is almost red now, and the font gets very dark. And here also on top, you see the increased level of contrast. Yeah, but the text may be better to read. Now, I don't do it to that extreme. I leave it in the default setting because it's decent and it's also comparable. Yeah. Now again, the page turning on the reMarkable is, because of the gallery technology, is slightly slower. And here on the Tab XC, you have this typical e-ink full refresh because that's the best quality mode. And it gets this short black flash to clean. So I would say let's go for it. Now, page turn, still this is a little bit faster, but nothing to complain about on the reMarkable. So the reMarkable is absolutely perfect when it's about flipping pages and speed of that. Though, if you're using really, really huge PDF documents of at least a couple of 30, 40, 50 megabytes or over 100 megabytes, then this device gets quite slow because it is a slow device. It is really only intended to handle a certain amount of file sizes, and that is something you have please to consider if you're using those devices. This is definitely more of a power workhouse in this regard. Now let's again to another page turn. And here you see now also a difference in the default settings. Even without increased contrast, on this device you definitely have a little bit more visibility of this shaded background here in the graphics. You can, now let's do this. If I go here in the contrast and go for full page, then it turns it off. And if I turn so here you have now a slightly better background contrast rendering, but I wouldn't say that this is much, much better than it is here. While here you can, if you're using the the dark mode, the increased dark mode rendering, you have a much higher level of contrast, which may be especially for graphs and diagrams like this, or if you are using a mirror application, for example, and do some on-screen whiteboarding, that may be of really a better usage experience than reading these documents on the reMarkable. Now, just because I don't want to do this, I always go into adaptive. I think reMarkable, taking into account the screen technology, does here a very good job in rendering this on its own. And here I am going back to this standard mode. Now, that's about it. Now let's go to a few other pages. Here you see clearly the better rendering of yellow, and this is also a partially yellow graph. So here you definitely see it is much, much darker. It's more an orange or brownish type of color. So nothing in comparison. What I would also want to draw your attention to is here the mathematical formulae. Here you have that as well, but even if it might seem the difference is negligible, but the readability here, of course, because of the size difference, is so much better than on this device. And in addition, and again, I will do this shortly after this explanation and this short demo, you will see the comparison of the macro images, and then we can definitely see how this compares, because the reMarkable has a lower resolution and a smaller size. So it should be, I would expect, and I mean, I hope this for the price point, that this rendering of mathematical equations here must be much better because it's larger and it's higher resolution, 300 ppi in black and white, and we are talking here about black and white text. You would rarely have a formula in blue or cyan or whatever. Now, here you also see probably, I mean, the yellow is not too bad for a Kaleido device. Let's be honest, it's okay-ish, but still here the rendering of the yellow is more yellow than it is here. So you see the differences. You also see here differences on the in this table. So the shading of the table header, while this looks more grayish, this is clearly more in the blue area, and this is also something. The blues are better visible here, but the colors are much more balanced, and if you compare them side by side, sometimes they look a little bit washed out on the gallery display. So just to have this in mind. Here again, a clear, clear yellow block, because that's really yellow pigments. Apologies. So, and here the RGB layer does its best, but it is not the same as here. And especially in this graph, it is much, much better visible, because here the yellow points even go over the other, I would say it's blue, yeah, blue-gray, whatever, background, and here it's like a little bit washed out. So color rendering is more balanced and more close to what you would expect on a printout, but I think the Onyx Boox Tab XC does a great job in comparison. Yeah, and here we go to the final section. If we look at the references of literature, you see, or I see it even here sitting, and looking about 30 centimeters from the screens. I can barely read it here. So this is really very small, and I think this is a default headache producing reading experience after a certain amount of time. So if you read that text in this size, well, okay, this is maybe not necessary for all the references, but if you read a text in this size for a longer period of time, go for your headache medication. And this one is small, but it's perfectly readable. And I think that's a combination of the bigger size and the higher resolution. So overall, now going here back, and that's something you can here very fast scroll again to the front, but that's something that should be available on the reMarkable as well. But sometimes I don't get it to work for some reason. Yeah, that's also a pain point or a criticism of mine, that this refresh and page turn thing, sometimes it's not working as expected. And well, anyway, so there are a couple of things where the reMarkable is definitely better, but there are a couple of things where the Neo Reader and all the features, because it has really a lot of features here. You can change the contrast, your navigation modes, how it behaves. You can have multi-document mode, which I, by the way, do not use, because I read one document, and if not, I close it. It saves anyway the page position, but it keeps filling up the memory, and the device gets slower. And you have no benefit from my perspective. So I'm not using this. So this is the comparison. You should see, again, I leave my hands a little bit away, that you can even pause and have a look at the comparison. And we are now, before we going into macro, I will show you something else. And this is how it looks. Maybe we keep it here for comparison. And I show you now the application Bookfusion. That's a paid Android app. And this Android app is third party, but it is heavily optimized for e-ink. In the meantime, it was not at the beginning. So when I purchased my Onyx Boox Tab Tab Ultra C, the small one, which was anyway by far too small for any academic papers, this particular application was not ready to be used on e-ink screens. Now this is really optimized. You can turn off all the animation features, and it works absolutely well. It gives you 100 in the most expensive subscription. I think it's $9.99 per month, and you have, of course, a yearly plan with a discount, and you can have 100 gigabytes storage. So approximately for this device, that's the amount that's available if you don't install anything else. Because of course you have the Android system and you know, a lot of things which are already coming with the device, even some bloatware, some may say. But here you have essentially close to 50 gigabytes net storage. I think it's 48 something. And that's really, really too small for 2025. I'm sorry, reMarkable. I mentioned this so many times. I cannot think why you wouldn't include a bigger chip, because it does not cost anything today to get in a 256 memory storage option. And here, by the way, the same, 128 is too small for a productivity workhouse. It should be at least 256, or it should have a SD card slot. So anyway, it's not happening. Now I'm also opening here this same document in the app, and I didn't play around a lot with the settings in the Neo Reader, but here you see the same thing. It's approximately the same setting. The only thing that I have done here is I have not set it to the best screen refresh mode, and you will see if you keep it in A2 with a specific setting where the colors are a little bit more accurate and no additional contrast increasing, then it looks quite comparable to the Neo Reader. The Neo Reader does the additional screen refresh, and yeah, and sometimes you have the problem you really need a full page swipe on this application. A short one does not work. This is a little bit annoying. But let's go here and do another color comparison. So again, color rendering is comparable. Yeah, here the yellow is okay. Here it's orange and not really yellow. If you go here, it should be also quite fine. And by the way, you have here the tap as well. You see here, well, this is very yellow. This is really flushing you know, into your face. And this is here a little bit more decent. Actually, the truth on paper, on printed paper, because also you know, a laser printer yellow pigment is maybe not reflecting the absolute color truth, is somewhere in the middle. Yeah, but this actually works quite well. Now here in this application, you can also go in Regal mode, and Regal mode is then even more color accurate and does also you know, a full screen refresh. And should also get rid of the artifacts that may stay on the screen if you are doing fast, you know, swiping of the pages. And that is something, yeah, and the reMarkable does not support this tapping feature. So if I'm doing this with left and right hand, then I'm definitely getting confused. But you see the quality of the screen rendering is essentially the same. Now, what this does not have is automatic crop mode, which all of the applications on the other applications I tested do actually have. And this crop mode allows you to increase the size and get rid of some of the borders which are white. The only thing I found is I don't need it on this device because it's large enough. I don't have anything larger than A4, and it is definitely not necessary on smaller books. It looks even annoying if you have a huge font and feel like 90 years old. And yeah, I mean, for some it may be okay to read it in larger font size, but I think it's not needed because of the size of the screen. Let's here go again and compare these two equations, and you see it's hard to read here, and it's small, but it is the size it would be printed on paper, and you wouldn't see here a huge difference. And that is sharp, crisp, yeah, and absolutely readable from my perspective. You see here also in this mode, you have the refresh of the screen. And again, if you do not, this is funny, if you do it like that, you get the full screen refresh, but it doesn't turn the pages. You need really the full distance. You also have here a slight shading of the background, so the colors are all much more balanced. But I tell you something, what I am using here is this setting. I'm using this with high contrast mode and fast page turn. So what you see is this. Now you have much more, much deeper contrast. Yes, this turns more into red and it's not yellow anymore. So that's something which could be annoying if you are really wanting the original color quality. But going to page 2, and here now you see that this is much more contrasty than on the reMarkable, and also the font is more black, if you allow me this wording. It is a little bit thicker, but still decently readable. And it's much easier to the eyes, because if it's very, very bright, then because the background is also, not white as on paper, this is the much darker background than on here, you would probably prefer having a higher contrast for reading text. Now here, you see that the dark background causes a couple of artifacts in images, namely it reduces significantly the dynamic range, and the blacks get somehow washed out, and also whites may appear to washed out. This also is, it's darker. Here you get it darker as well, but it's still, if you need the color coding, you can still see it and analyze it. Also the header of the table is darker, and you can, here this flushy yellow is here much more decent, but it's still, what I would say is, for a scientific paper, and here you see clearly that's red and that's yellow, so here you have a huge difference. But depending on your needs, you can quickly turn on or off this contrast setting. It is not automatically working like on the reMarkable, and even on the reMarkable it's not always perfect. So here you have probably to choose this manually, and if you want to say let this stay more closer to the original, then go without high contrast. But in some cases, especially if using diagrams which have color shading, which is very subtle, and because of the dark background of the page, I go for this higher contrast mode. So I think this is a really welcome feature. And in the Neo Reader, you had to adjust it manually with this bar, because it's a system application, does not follow the same approach that Onyx took for all the third-party applications for some reason. And if you now go to this section here, this small font, and here you have a clear advantage of readability for the larger device, even if you don't crop anything in, but even it might not be huge, but that is by far more readable, I can tell you, because I did it really close to my eyes, and that's a huge advantage. Now, that's for scientific documents. One thing I want to say is that I'm not in any shape or form paid by the manufacturer of Bookfusion, but the advantage of this is that you can create a tagging system. You can attach documents or books to multiple bookshelves. You have categories, you have bookshelves, you have tags, so it's very, very granular. And you can also take notes. You can look for tags. You can tag individual pages, and you can find those over your entire library. So exactly what I'm missing on the stock application of the Onyx Tab XC, and what we have with the tagging system here on the reMarkable, which is really great on the reMarkable. This is lacking here, but this third-party app gives you some sort of advantage. And yes, it's a cloud-based service, you have to pay for it, but then it's cross-functional, which the reMarkable is not in any shape or form. You can use it on an Android tablet, on an Android phone, you can use it on an iPhone, on an iPad tablet, and in the browser on any PC that has some sort of web browser, which is these days any device in the world. So I think that's a great proposition to try out this application if you wish to. Now let's go into one area where I would also like to show you a comparison, and this is photographic documents or photographic. This is a book about landscape photography. Now, I mentioned in one of my first reviews of the reMarkable Paper Pro that it is absolutely fantastic for photographic books and documents and so on, and I still agree to this. However, there are, for example, in this area, strange things coming to my eye. And yes, I mean, this is a little bit more in the light of the window, but you see, this is completely washed out. You could also say it's more balanced, yeah. But on this particular cover, it looks more poppy and more pleasing to the eyes on the in Bookfusion or on the Onyx Boox Go. And here I'm now going to disable the contrast, then the high contrast mode, so it gets a little bit more natural and less aggressive, and the dynamic range is larger. But in this case, and you really can switch it fast if you're reading a book about photography, I would recommend to use the high refresh, so the high quality refresh mode of the Onyx books. Then yes, of course you have the refresh, and the disadvantage of using it with this app is that the entire menu structure, scrolling, etc., which is in the same app, would annoy you. Absolutely, I'm sure, because the scrolling that does almost not work. And in the stock applications of the Boox device, the library or the shelf and the scrolling and organization of books is something else, and then you open in NeoReader, which is a different application. So you can have different settings. Here, this is a third-party Android app which does the library management and the reading mode, so you have to decide for one or the other. And what I do is, I do rarely read photography books, but if I do image-heavy documents, if I need that, then I can switch to this mode manually when I have opened the book, not before. Now, let's go into this, and here you see already this is more yellow and this is more brown, where I wouldn't even say that the yellow tint of the reMarkable is really so correct. Maybe this is more like earth tones, and it could be that this representation here is much more accurate. Now, here you see, of course, also the size of the screen, and yeah, I mean, you can increase the font size. I didn't do this now. Acknowledgements, yeah, this is also more yellow. This is a little bit red. Here is the table of contents, which on the reMarkable is slightly different how the links are represented. They have a background bar here, and here they are underlined as you would expect links to appear on web pages, for example, in default mode. Anyway, I think that's not really a deal breaker. Now, here we have an interesting comparison. You see clearly on the reMarkable that the colors yellow, not in this picture, and blue, what you see here, are much, much more saturated and popping than on the typical Kaleido 3 items, like here on the Onyx. And you see also that on this device, you interestingly have a much, much stronger reddish violet tint here in the area of the trees. The blue is also more gray, and a little bit lighter. But overall, I mean, taking into account this is still e-ink, and this is the inferior e-ink technology for color representation. From the color representation perspective, I would say this is absolutely decent, and that's a fantastic, you know, way of looking at it. Now, okay, this is now here. Okay, forward. Yeah. Now, this is interesting. Here again, we see this is a view outside of a window. So this is intentionally out of focus, okay? But here you see this as obviously yellow facades of houses here on the square. And this is again more on the brownish side. The rest seems to be fairly comparable. And also here the details are visible. So I can live with that. I'm happy. But you have to see the differences and you have to understand where they come from. Now, here is something you see as well. Here in this simple diagram or graph to explain here how the camera obscura, the one with the without the lens but just the hole, works. You have here yellow colors, and here this is again, it's yellow, but it's much more on the brown and darker side. However, the contrast here of this blue is better visible than on the reMarkable. Now, this is an easy one because it's essentially a black and white picture, while I have to say that the black and white looks more black and white with a slight sepia tone. Yeah, it's not black, it's actually brown and white, if you will. And this one has a slight red tint to it, but it is, I think it is absolutely fine, and you can live with both. Now, this is an interesting one because here you clearly see also that this picture, this photo of over the rooftops of Glasgow looks well balanced on the reMarkable. It has here a little bit more yellow, it has the dark blue, and that one, it has a different appearance. It has definitely less yellow tones. However, it is less washed out here in the brighter areas than here. So here the white clouds are whiter, and the dark areas here are also a little bit darker. So the contrast is here increased. And maybe we can look how it appears when we change this contrast mode and make it like that. Then it looks comparable, I would say. Still, it seems to me as if the dynamic range, which means to cover also very, very bright shades of color and also quite dark shades of the color, is much, much bigger on the Onyx Boox XC implementation of the Kaleido 3 technology. Whereas here on the reMarkable with the Gallery 3, even in the low contrast mode, which should give better, better dynamic range for the photos, it is washed out a little bit here in the white area, as of, if you compare it with here. And also the dark area here seems to be a little bit more darker, or at least they're comparable, but with the white, there is a difference. And then you see also the size difference, obviously. And you see that here in this area of the house, and here, this is a little bit more on the yellowish side again, and this is more on the brownish side overall. So, okay, but actually on the, I don't know, because I'm filming here with two cameras and so on, but I would say that the sky here, the color of the sky looks more natural to me, because this is a little bit on the violet dark side. Personal interpretation maybe, but yeah. Here we have now an absolute clear comparison. Let's see, now I am in the Regal mode. Yes, you can also go into the fast mode, but here you see now, especially in this picture, that the dynamic range is dramatically reduced. So again, if you are into on a Kaleido 3 screen, and looking onto photos and want to have the best quality, and photos are still, so you can go into the highest quality mode, and this is even better than the HD mode in this case, I can tell you, because of the contrast level it gives you. So this mode is better and gives you better screen rendering of photos. And here on the reMarkable, you have no choice. You can go either for the low contrast or for the adaptive or increased contrast. If we go for this contrast now, for the standard where this is switched off, then you see, I would say these are again comparable, but again, usually Kaleido screens have their own pigments, and therefore the colors yellow and especially blue, these two are visibly more vibrant than on the Kaleido 3 screens. So what you also see here is sometimes artifacts. But, you know, if you have very subtle shades, then this can cause artifacts here. And this can, by the way, strange enough, this can be avoided if you go to the lower quality but faster refresh mode. But since you wouldn't switch back and forth on one document for every page, I guess, this is something that you should be aware of. It can happen from time to time. Now I'm going here to adaptive mode again, because it's default. And here you see now, these are, actually, let's go back, because, yeah, okay. So you see again, honestly, that is a little bit washed out on the reMarkable. It's very bright. And here you have again the better dynamic range, including the whatever, aluminum or silver plastic of this notebook. The camera is dark, but you still see some structure. You see this here as well. But overall, the dynamic range looks a little bit better here. And here again, these two photos, well, they are extreme high contrast, and so the photo itself is difficult to watch on the screen, even here. But you see here, it's more on the yellow side, and again, the blue is darker and going a little bit more into what has a tint of magenta, and here it's more bluish, and the yellow is much more subtle, has a higher red component in it, and gets a little bit more into the brown direction. So again, here you see this is a little bit, yeah. I mean, here the dynamic range and the presentation is really, really good. I would say also that these two are perfect, yeah. So, and here we have another example where I would say the color rendering of the reMarkable is actually inferior than the one on the Kaleido screen. Both have washed out whites, so this is simply the case. But then you have here the additional influence of the warm tone of the background, but this is a colder background, darker, but like a neutral gray. So this looks a little bit oversaturated in a yellow tint, I would say. This is for my personal feeling. And this looks decently gray, darker overall, but it has more character in my personal feeling. It's maybe personal, maybe you feel different, then please comment. But this is how I feel it. Now, maybe one or two more, and you can easily skip if you're not interested in these comparisons. But here you have now a picture of a forest, and here a tree. And here actually I would say the sharpness and the structure is more visible on this one than on this, while this has an overall little bit more balanced appearance. So this has a little bit oversaturated, looks like oversaturated sharpness and contrast. And I'm just looking, no, it's in the Regal mode, so the contrast is anyway in the optimal settings. So Um, I would say both have their optical qualities, but I like this here on the right side more. So this could be an interesting one because here you see clearly, honestly, almost a shocking difference because this is a different picture. Here, the colors are, this is like a desert and is a yellow, but very subtle yellow with a lot yellowish brown. Yeah, and here you see that because the yellow is already reduced in the image itself, which would pop normally on the reMarkable device, you see here that the yellow component is almost gone, and the brown the brown component of this area here is really dominating. So it has a different character. I don't say this image is ugly and non-aesthetic, and I wouldn't go for it, but it is a different photo essentially. So here you clearly see a difference. And here also, these two have actually a slight difference in the blue tone, and the contrast is higher on this one, even if we have in both cases not set the high contrast mode. I would say in this case I almost prefer the reMarkable representation of this photo because it's more balanced, and this is very, very dark in this area here. So now again, the reMarkable shines in the balanced color representation. You see this here, yeah. So the Kaleido screen is fantastic in doing that. Though I'm really impressed how this photo looks here on the Kaleido screen. Yes, the gallery is smoother, gives you a much more, for photo rendering, it is definitely the way to go. But I love how the colors are represented here. Yes, the yellow is a little bit more in the background, and what you see here as well is artifacts of compression of, missing dynamic range, because here obviously you have a sharp edge of this lighter area, which here is smooth and well balanced and well mixed. And also here, where you have obviously almost a full white part of the photo, and going here into the very dark background, and here as well. But here you have some compression artifacts, and that is something that you see. We are already in the highest quality mode, so I think you are not getting it any better. Still, love it, absolutely love it on both devices, and on the on the reMarkable, I was expecting a very good quality, but here I'm almost impressed how it looks like. One thing to note here, though, on the reMarkable, you see after a couple of page turns, after this full page picture, the firmware is still lacking to do a full refresh and clean my yellow background. This has here a clear artifact, very yellow artifact that is not properly cleaned when I turn the pages. And on the reMarkable, I cannot change this setting. Here I can, for example, I've set, this is a gesture you can set. When I do a right swipe, then I always get the full screen refresh. Do this on the reMarkable, yeah, you can turn pages, but nothing more. So you see this artifact, I see it very, very intensively almost, honestly, and even here in the table. But I guess looking here on the monitor, you should be able to see it also on the video. Now, here we have another case where the reMarkable screen and especially the gallery rendering engine is much, much better in producing a smooth image, while here the compression artifacts within, and actually the compression areas within this image, which may be a JPEG embedded here, and it looks much, much better here on the reMarkable. So that's something to consider. But still, especially sharpness and the other parts of the screen of the image, I would say it's decent. Now the last one, because I don't want to make this video too long here. It's already going to be an hour, I guess. is this one. This is a challenging photo because it has high dynamic range. It has very, very bright areas, and it has here in the stems extremely dark, almost black areas, which means the contrast is high. And here we have here also a lower contrast mode. So this, if you go to the Regal setting, this is the most high quality screen refresh mode, and it should give the best and also most balanced contrast mode that is possible on the Kaleido 3 technology, on this implementation. And here on the reMarkable, you see it is much more yellow. It is less contrasty, which is maybe as it should be. So maybe this photo has less contrast, but give me a second. I need to get this closer to my eyes and have really a look, and then we may see it. So, okay. Well, maybe you see it differently, and please post in the comments if you do. But I see here background waves. So I see this as a bush or something like that. And I don't know what plant it is, honestly. Small tree in front of a water, a sea, a lake, I don't know, river, but some water. And this looks like wave structures. And here on the reMarkable, I don't see any structure in the background. I just see plain, dark blue, but no structure. And that is strange because there is clearly some texture in the background, which for me looks like I'm looking through the branches of this little tree or bush into a water reservoir, river, sea, tree, river, lake, whatever. I don't know. Second thing is the yellow. The yellow is sometimes oversaturated on the gallery technology, and that may also have its advantages, especially for presentations of diagrams and graphs and so on. But here it seems a little bit too much because that looks more natural to me. Maybe I am mistaken, but for me it looks more natural. Okay. Now, if you are ready, we are now going to go one step further and go for the macro mode. And I will just add my, okay. And we are ready to go and do some macros. And then you will see how these screens compare in direct, in all the refresh modes and all the picture quality using a very close look onto it. So now my setup is ready. You see how I'm going to film this, and let's see how this all works. We are now going to enable here the camera. How it's filming. And we see here now the text in a close-up. And if I move this a little bit down, then we can ideally see, we can actually see how the screen really looks from very close, and especially in this particular image, we see the structure, we see all the pigments, and I'm now going to do a full refresh, and you will see this as well. This is another photo, and back to this one. Yeah. So if I'm let me just do a screen refresh. No, it doesn't work. Okay. Apologies. So this was a full screen refresh. And if we are now moving this a little bit down, again to the lenses, and now let's go here to the text. And you see how the text looks like. And the text is really crisp. sharp, and well readable, and even the contrast is absolutely great. Now, maybe one last thing which we can see again here, this word lenses. You see the color quality. This is definitely looking red in a way, or at least reddish, orange, something like that. We can then discuss. We can maybe discuss, but I will now go and put the reMarkable under this setup. Here you see already a significant difference. You see a significant difference, and that is how the pixels are represented on the reMarkable screen. So you see here the Gallery 3 technology versus the Kaleido technology that we have been watching before. Just give me a second. If we move now the reMarkable a little bit here, you will also see slightly, this position here. So if you have ever looked at a old-fashioned newspaper or low-quality print with not a huge amount of resolution, or even better, something in public advertising in huge sizes, then you see how the offset printing technology works and how colors are mixed. And that looks, it's not exactly the same, but it looks a little bit similar. You see a similar way of mixing the colors, the pigments, and there is clearly no RGB layer on top of it. You see the pigments directly, but the resolution is lower. Now let's go down here and approach the text. Now you see here the lenses word. The lenses word looks different. Text quality is decent on the reMarkable. I always said for normal eyes and normal reading distance, it's a perfect text to read, but it has not exactly the same crispness and sharpness of the Onyx books or any screen with 300 ppi, because that's significantly lower. It's just a bit around 220. So that is something visible. You also see that the reMarkable uses by default a different font, but that is actually something which you can change on both devices with some limited choice on the reMarkable and much more choices, of course, because you can install custom fonts on the Onyx Books series. Now let's also do a screen refresh on the reMarkable. The only thing I cannot show you is a cleaning refresh. I can just show you how it looks if you go to the previous page, and that was a dark image that was displayed here, and here was a text. So you see here now a text. Now I turn the page, it goes into a dark image. This is more or less a black, and then it turns into this, and you see clearly how the screen is refreshed. Let's go back once again. Let's move forward again. And then even one page further. So now it's next page, not previous. And that is a photo with some, I would say like in a desert. This is the ground, and you see stones. And that is how it looks like. Now going back, forth, back and forth. And this is the screen refresh on the reMarkable. So now you see how these two do really compare. And last but not least, because this is still video, but this camera has over 60 megapixel. So if we go now into the real pixel peeping approach, let's take some still photos and compare the close-ups. Okay, so we are here in Lightroom, and I have opened already some of the, so this here is the photo. You see I've taken a screenshot, a still photo from lenses, the lenses text, and this is from the Onyx Boox Tab XC. So you will definitely see here the RGB layer, which is 45 degrees. And if I zoom in you can actually see it really well. So if we go here and go to the L shape at the beginning, yeah, the E, here you see maybe better how the these pixels are overlaying, and here only red. But you also see that when you have a supposed white background, that you can see mainly the red and blue pixels. The green pixels should be here, and this is extremely subtle, so you cannot really see it. And it's RGB, so you definitely have here yeah, something like the green pixels, but obviously not visible, or not well visible anyway in this this setup. I can even go a little bit further and zoom in more, but this I think now is going to the level of the photo resolution already, so it may not make absolute sense to compare this. But yes, you can see this is, sorry, it was not yellow, it was green. This is the R red, green and blue, and they are obviously aligned in this order: green, red and blue, green, red and blue, and in the next row they are shifted by 1 pixel in the order, and therefore you get this 45-degree arrangement. And here you see what happens when you have in this case a red color, but because you have also a lot of black pixels, you see that overall it looks red. And I can now do here a direct comparison with the photo of the reMarkable Paper Pro, which does not have the RGB layer, but you see here the pixels directly. Again, this is much more similar to offset printing. And if I go here into high resolution, you see the pixels. And by the way, you see something as well, and that is, and I was actually trying to find out what it is, but then I found with another camera angle from the side, and I cannot really show it because the pictures are hard to interpret, but this is the glass surface of the reMarkable Paper Pro. This is how the glass surface looks like. Yes, and actually that's exactly why the surface is even a little bit better for handwriting. It has more grip, it has more friction, it has a I don't know how they do it, maybe with sand, high pressure sand or something like that, but that's the surface level of the glass. And what you see here is how they mix, how a Gallery 3 ink display mixes the color. So you clearly see, I mean, maybe I'm even going full screen here. You see the yellow pigments here. You see mainly red pigments, but also black ones, or in the, I would guess this is not black, this is blue. And what you see is that that this is more or less the mixture. So you get a little bit of, you get mainly red, a little bit of black or blue to darken, and you get the yellow pictures for the yellow tint, for the yellow mix, and that should lead something like an orange. Here you see even better how this looks like. Also here see really the dark dots. And again, taking into account the resolution, which is lower, definitely visibly lower than on the Onyx Boox Tab XC, it's now hard to argue that the display quality of the gallery display is much better. I mean, it looks brighter, it looks more orange than on the Onyx tablet. This looks more red, I would say. But even here at this distance, you see the sharpness, and it's exactly the same distance. Okay, so the camera was on the tripod, so the distance is absolutely the same, and you see here clearly that the shape of the L's, the serif extensions of the font. Here also the thin lines are actually much sharper and more balanced than here, where E and S are actually coming close together. Let's maybe zoom into this level here. So you see here clearly that E and S touch each other, and if we look into the Onyx representation, so definitely the resolution and the fine grain display quality is much better because of the higher resolution. But overall you have this overlay, you have this 45-degree angle, which may also be disturbing for some people. Now let's look into the photo itself. So you have here again the plant, and if I think here in the middle would be possibly a good well, maybe that's a little bit too much, but here you see again the yeah, I think that's quite okay. Here you see definitely the 45-degree angle of the RGB overlay. You see here that the dark pixels are much darker, so you can get more saturated blacks on the Kaleido technology than on the gallery display, because on gallery the colors are all mixed, and here you have definitely the black pixels at a resolution of 300 ppi, and that's the main difference. Yeah, so that's something we should definitely see here. Maybe there is, well, that's approx, that's actually the same picture, but if you look into the bright areas here, you can see how this looks like. So it's not really white, but it's very, very bright, and you see here the balanced color representation, always with this 45-degree angle, and you clearly see here the pixels, and you see them very, very well. Here even the shape, because they are obviously square shaped. And now the reason, because you may think this is not, the focus is not correct, this is not a sharp picture. In fact, like on the reMarkable Paper Pro, this is also because of the layer, the glass layer of the Onyx Boox Tab XC. So, but it's much finer. It has a very smooth, still matte surface, and that diffracts the light here, so you don't get more sharpness than you see here, even if the focus is clearly had focus peaking on the camera turned on, so you could really see it doesn't get any sharper, because that's the glass surface that you are seeing here. So I think that's impressive to compare and to see how this looks like. Now let's go back here on the Onyx Boox Tab XC to the font. And maybe let's look, well, these pictures are actually the same. So let's go here, while here you clearly see it's not in focus. So I've been focusing on this part, because it was not 100% 90 degree from top. So there is a slight angle, and this is the best focus position. Now looking here and even zooming in a little bit more, this is what you see. So you see here again slightly, this slight diffraction is the glass surface, the matte surface, but here you see the quality of the display in black and white, and you see the RGB layer behind, and that gives you the dark background which would be missing in case you had, for example, the Onyx Boox Note Max, in this case, if you want the large display, yeah, or the Onyx Boox Go 10.3, or even the Palma. You would always see that this RGB layer is missing, and then you have here these minor effects, which are here even visible in color, would disappear, and you have the much brighter, still gray, not white, but much brighter background. But apart from the fact that the display has this glass layer on top of it, which gives it a slight out of focus feeling. But honestly, if you look at the letters here, I mean, that is really high quality of such a display. You don't even see the black and white pixels anymore. So much, so well is this display. And again, the only slight annoyance here for reading black and white text, black text on white background, is that the white background has these RGB artifacts and is not really bright, not really white. So you read black on gray background. Now let's look how this compares here to the Onyx. To the reMarkable tablet, and we can here see, by the way, first of all, let's go into the representation of a picture. Now what you see immediately is that the photo here has much less darkness in the dark areas. Even if I go for another one, maybe for this one, no, it doesn't get any let's zoom in here. So you see again, this looks much more like an old-fashioned newspaper print, like an offset printing, where the colors and the pigments are printed like that on a rastered image. And you see here as well, slightly covered by the glass surface, and these effects here, which look a little bit like also like out of focus, but they are, or like something, some liquid maybe even. I can't explain how it looks like, but that is again the glass surface. But you clearly see here the pigments underneath, and actually it looks a little bit like an expressionist painting almost. Looks even nice, but you see clearly how the dark colors, in this case this is the black, and how this is mixed. And if you want a direct comparison here, this is still the reMarkable, but let's go back here to the Onyx, and if you zoom out here, that is the black on a Kaleido 3 display, and that is the black on a gallery display. Actually, it's dark blue, and it doesn't get any darker than maybe this here. Yeah, so it's clearly a different quality. Again, the overall color mixture and the overall overall dynamic range to me is much nicer. In fact, on many photos using the Gallery 3 technology, but objectively pixel peeping into all these photos, sharpness, crispness, dynamic range is really good on this Onyx Boox Tab XC. Now let's of course also last but not least go here into some text, and I also try to look into the most, I think we have it here. Yes, definitely this here is the sharpest area. I try to go here on top of this and again zoom in a little bit more to make it visible for you. So here we have it. Here you see clearly the glass surface structure, and you can also see here, for example, the characters are actually well printed, but compared to the Onyx tablets with 300 ppi, these 225 ppi are definitely not the same crispness as you do find them on a on the Onyx tablets. I'm looking. No, they are all actually the same. But here you see it. Actually, here you see it. Actually, this glass layer, which gives the surface structure and the texture, which makes writing on the reMarkable tablet so nice. Yeah. On the other hand, it does definitely weaken the display quality, especially for text, and that is something you should take into account. And if we don't zoom that extreme, but let's say you know, halfway into it, you clearly see, no, so you clearly see here how this looks like. So you see, first of all, here is out of focus again because it's slightly angled, the view. Here it's completely in focus. Here you see the artifacts of the glass overlay, of the glass surface structure, and you see how you know, this the crispness and sharpness looks like. On the other hand, looking from a normal reading distance, and that is what I always said in all the reviews I've made about the reMarkable Paper Pro, it's perfectly readable. Yeah, only if you absolutely do compare it to a text, and I have unfortunately not exactly the same text here, but if I go here and also zoom in for characters that we have approximately the same size, then you see that first of all, the surface structure on the Onyx Boox Tab XC is different. It's much cleaner. It's slightly more glossy, even from the light reflection point of view, and it does do less light diffraction to the underlying letters and pictures on the e-ink display, which means essentially you get a sharper and crisper reading experience. So, okay guys, what do you think? I'm personally not a huge fan of pixel peeping to that level, unless for, you know, for some interest and to demonstrate this. But overall, we have to agree that the, you know, the normal reading distance, you wouldn't recognize a lot of these artifacts. But these two screen technologies are completely different. And the dynamic range and the color representation of the Gallery 3 screen is better in many ways. But I think that the Onyx Boox Tab XC does really a great job. And considering its huge size, it may be the absolute perfect choice for any people working in academia, reading large size academic papers and books, which make use of some colors to distinguish, for example, content in some diagrams. If they are color coded and you use a black and white only display, you may be out of luck. And this is why I think the Onyx Boox Tab XC is the missing power workhouse, the missing power tablet for knowledge workers, and I really love it. I'm honest, I really love it. I will keep my reMarkable Paper Pro. It's a different device. They both serve a different audience, but both are wonderful devices. Now, what's your opinion? I'm happy to hear your comments, and I see you hopefully in the next one.